Hello, and welcome to Jackie's Hand of Horror. On today's episode, we're going to do things a bit differently. We're all about new things around here. Learning, experimenting, moving forward. Today, I'm going to tackle this subject on my own, even though everyone I know has had to deal with it. And that subject is depression sucks. Today's show is part of my own processing, and my deepest hope is that something I say here may inspire you or help you to shift towards something better for you. Now, I'm not here to unload my own sordid tale that may or may not include neglect, trauma, loss, grief, or many of the other challenging events we experience as part of our human condition. But I do want to share that I've learned quite a number of useful things in my 59 years here on this planet. And one of the most useful things and least useful things I've learned is that the only thing we can ever truly control in life is our own perspective. Now, when we can change our viewpoint, the whole world changes too. But when you're in crisis or pain or any number of chemical or hormonal imbalances, all that just goes right out the window. Everything is warped and skewed. And when we're able to see things differently, finally, we wonder how we were ever in that other place. So for a little while, will you join me as we explore a few different perspectives of dealing with depression? For our thumbs up segment of today's show and our movie trailer review, I'm going to talk about a new show that I just found on Netflix. It's titled Maniac. The stars are Emma Stone and Jonah Hill. Now, Emma Stone, let's see, she was in that Billie Jean movie, Billie Jean King, amazing. She's incredible. And Jonah Hill, who I didn't even recognize him, but I recognized his voice. He has a very distinctive voice. He's lost a lot of weight. He looks really good, but he looks so different. Anyhow, they're just both really good actors. The characters are amazing. The show is about these two characters played by Emma Stone and Jonah Hill that are brought into a facility of a pharmaceutical company with other strangers for a 3-day drug trial. And they have to stay there for that time. And they're assured that there's no complications or side effects and that the drugs they're taking will solve all their problems. All the people in the study have some mental issues of one thing or another. So anyway, I've watched a couple episodes. It's dark and a little bit funny, but it's I like it. I would definitely recommend it. It's on Netflix, and on my YouTube page, I'll put the link, and also here on SoundCloud. If you go to the link where you got into this, you'll find it. Let's see, what else? Oh, lately I've really actively been seeking out things that are inspirational or that can give me good information as I've gone through these dark times, which we'll get into a little more later in the podcast. But here's one that I've really enjoyed. See, one of my personal tools is I like to look at things on television. I like to find shows, or I read positive things like Reader's Digest, or on the internet, Upworthy. Upworthy.com is a really good place to find some great stories. I find great stories and some really funny things. Humor always helps. On cracked.com. And so anyway, let's see. It's a documentary that interviews a number of transformational speakers, spiritual leaders, nutritionists, counselors. I watched it on the television station Gaia, Gaia, which, by the way, I'm finding a lot of really positive, inspirational things, regardless of your spiritual belief. I also found links to this film on YouTube, and I'm sharing that link on my Jackie's Hand of Horror Facebook page and on my YouTube, Jackey Naaman Jones on YouTube. Anyway, the show is called Emotion. And I'm always looking for things that are really inspiring, and it talked about emotion from all these different viewpoints, and I just got a lot of great information out of it. So anyway, I really think you should check it out. And if you have anything that you would like to share with me that's inspirational, things that you've watched that helps bring you a more balanced and calm place in your life, then please share it with me. I'd love to hear from you. So that's it on my movies today or television programs. And we'll see you in the next segment. For this Depression Sucks episode and our Forefinger Ideas segment, let's talk about a few simple things that we can do that can help shift our perspective and give us a much needed break from the hamster wheel of dark thought. A great tool for me when I need a distraction, well, it's getting outside, and if possible, I go for a walk. Now, if you followed me on any of my other platforms, you'll see that I collect and I paint stones, and I release them back to the wild. So when I'm on a walk and I see blank stones, I collect them for painting later, and that in itself is a pretty nice meditative process. During the deepest part of my depression, I couldn't be bothered to even do that sometimes. I mean, to go outside for a walk, much less anything else. But when I did make myself go out, I would instantly begin to feel better, and I'd think, well, why don't I do this more often? Well, fortunately for me, I have a dog, and he would shame me into walks. That's Shanka. So anyway, Shanka is very instrumental. I say that he's my life coach because that guy keeps a close eye on me and tries to make sure I'm taking care of myself even when I don't want to. So, but if you don't have a dog, you're just going to have to do it on your own. And I'm telling you, it's not easy, but if you can get yourself out there even for a few minutes, you will probably feel better. Because something about that, it gets me outside, and it gets me outside of my own head. And sometimes those moments, just a small shift towards something different. Now, if I can't go for a walk, if I cannot go for a walk, I find that doing something physical often helps, even if it's stretching, just stretching, rearranging a section of my space. Sometimes just one little corner, it'll make me feel better if it gets straightened up. I keep a stone painting kit handy. So, when I need a positive distraction task and I can't really think of anything else, I can easily grab that. And it just occurred to me, there's the adult coloring books. Next time you're out at, one of your big box stores, find one of those. I think even the dollar stores carry those. You know, some of them have like mandalas and just designs. Grab some colors, and I used to do that. Now that I'm thinking about it, as a teenager, I'm an artist, but I loved having a coloring book and just color in that sometimes because you don't have to think about it. You can just go instinctively with colors that feel good to you. Um, Sometimes reading. So maybe for you, it's reading something positive. I love websites like upworthy.com. That's UPWORTHY.com. They have great stories about just the best things that we do and who we are as people. And reading something like that is often just the greatest way that I start my day. I'll read it when I get up, I'm having my coffee, and then sometimes I'll share it online, and it makes me feel glad to see the responses I get. Also, a big one is look to your nutrition. Live, raw, organic vegetables are the best. And to eat the rainbow, meaning to eat vegetables from every color to get the widest range of nutrition, is really best for your body. I invested in a great juicer and I took my time to find the best deal I could on it. It's called a Hurom. That's Hurom. Look it up. They're not inexpensive, but they're worth it, especially when you find a great deal. And when you think of it as an investment in your health, because less doctor visits is way worth it to me. I love that thing, and I use it sometimes more than once a day. I experimented with different combinations for vegetable juicing, and I make juice now nearly every day for breakfast. And I've been doing it since April, so it's a firm habit now, and I don't feel quite right when I don't have my juice. The combination that I put in my juicer that I make is with kale and or Swiss chard, beets and the greens, they're greens, and carrots. Another thing I learned to make with my juicer is ice cream made from bananas primarily. It's dessert and it's good for you. And when I serve it to other people, I've experimented with a little bit, adding cinnamon and different things, and people have no idea how dang good it is for them. So anyhow, I recognize that as hard as things have been for me, that it would have been worse, much worse, I think, if I'd not already taken steps for healing with food. And the reason I did that is because I hate going to the doctor, and I was feeling so terrible that I had to do something. So I'm a big proponent for all of this, and all you need to do is Google the connection between mental and physical health and what we put inside our bodies, and I think you too might see taking some additional steps in that direction. The way I look at it is it can't hurt you, right? Recently, one of my sons was struggling with depression as well, and so since I was already juicing, I made extra juice and I started handing it to him every day. I just told him, I'm your mom, and as long as you're living close by, you're just going to have to deal with this. So I'd hand him juice every day, and things began changing for him within a couple of weeks, and outwardly he started looking much better even sooner than that. But it seemed to give him a much needed boost. And but for him, I traded the carrots out for pears because carrots make his throat itch, and without either, it seemed just a little bit bitter. So those are my top tips and hints for do-it-yourself mental and physical health. But look, understand that every one of us needs help beyond ourselves, and that comes in many, many different packages. If we can just open ourselves up a little bit to see outside of this rigid perspective that we sometimes place ourselves in of self-judgment and all those negative things. But there is help, and sometimes you just really you really need to be the one to reach out and ask. And I know how easy it is to isolate yourself when you're depressed and how gradually it comes upon you. My heart is with you and all who struggle with this issue of depression. We're all connected, and much healing can happen when we can just remember that. So I'm with you. On this show today, I'm giving the middle finger interview segment to myself. I've been going through some pretty trippy shit stuff for at least 2 years. And, I believe I found my way to the other side. And at this point, I would really like to share some of my journey out of the darkness story with you. So for the last couple of years, I have been living in a very uncomfortable place and such an existence that I've had crazy physical symptoms and they just progressed and got worse. I would suddenly be hit by this weird dreamy mind state and my heart would start racing and I would feel confused, spaced out, and I wouldn't be able to finish my words or my thoughts. It was way deeper than that. It was like being possessed or in another world, or just I had no words for it. And for quite a long time, I could mostly fake my way through it when I was in a public event or place. But I did notice that I'd get some odd looks from people when they would see something was going on with me, something was different. All of a sudden I would just kind of stop talking. As I was trying to gather my thoughts, the words would leave my mouth, my brain, or maybe I would say the wrong word. Something different would come out of my mouth, and somewhere inside my head I would know it was wrong, but I didn't know what was right. The symptoms began getting worse, and it was followed by other strange things. And after a while, like most recently, after I would go through this episode, which I began to call them, I would begin shaking like someone was in shock, who was in shock. And when it was finally over, I would be worn out and fairly useless for a while. Needless to say, this was heavily impacting my life. And although I wasn't canceling any schedules or events, I was concerned that that was coming up next. One example recently was this summer. I was at San Diego Comic-Con, and I was there for 3 days and doing my best to take care of myself. I wasn't staying out late. I was getting enough rest, keeping the stress down, bringing healthy food with me. And so regardless, it was overwhelming. And at one point, I needed to leave the booth for a few minutes. And I went to the restroom, which actually wasn't very far from our booth space. I left my phone behind because it was charging. And I thought I'd just go to the restroom and come right back, which was, like I said, not very far and kind of a straight shot. So I knew the booth number was 1235, which from now on for the rest of my life, I'll never forget that number. So I went to the restroom and I came out and the food court was right there and I was confused. Everything lost my head. It just left. And I had no idea what the booth number was. I didn't have my phone with me. And it was just odd. So I wandered around for probably 15 or 20 minutes before I finally found my way back and was extremely relieved. But that was frightening, as you can just imagine. So episodes like this would happen really at any time and in any situation. It didn't have to be a stressful situation. I could be in my car and on the freeway and it would happen. And sometimes these things could last up to 15 minutes. My friends and family started witnessing it. And a few weeks ago, I even went to the emergency room, which is way out of character for me. Honestly, my leg would have to be hanging off by some sinew for me to say, I think I need help here. But I was really concerned at that time that I was about to have a stroke or something, the way that my heart was racing. So maybe that day, maybe that situation was the last straw for my body and my mind. But a number of things changed after that. And a week or so later, and I wasn't writing this stuff down, but the episodes just kind of stopped. So I'm not an expert by any means, as much as I love to do my research on Google and all that. But I've got some ideas about what's going on here. So let's talk about that. Things seem to be begin feeling a bit overwhelming several years ago, when I was writing my book, Growing Up with Mono's A Hands of Fate. And that in itself was stressful because I'd never written a book before. This was brand new for me. And I found somebody, Laura Mazuka Toops, my co-author, who could help me through that process. But even so, I did the writing and I did the research, and with all the help she gave me, this was a big step for me. And so so we write the book, and even before it was released by the publisher, I started doing a Kickstarter and writing a script for a sequel to Monos, The Hands of Fate, titled Monos Returns. And that was, for me personally, to involve my father, Tom Naiman, who played the master in Monos, The Hands of Fate, in a project, and as an excuse to spend time with him. And that's a whole nother story, which I'm not going into here, complicated family stuff. So I'm working on this relationship with my dad and writing this script and getting him involved in this. And we do the Kickstarter. And the moment that was funded, here we are. We're casting, costuming, and all else that goes into making a film, any film. And this one on a tiny budget and on a location that nearly everyone needed to travel out of state to, which happened to be my town and my home. And so we all had many, many jobs. These things combined with everything else I was doing to make a living, and I mean, because that wasn't making a living for me. None of these things were or are. And so I'm doing all of these things, and I'm trying to make a living at the same time and promote myself. And I think it all took its toll, apparently. I mean, I would hear people saying, and they still do, I don't know how you do all that. Well, you know what? I don't either. I'm kind of ADD and I can't help myself, and I'm a creative person, and you're never going to stop me because I've just always been this way. And so, but through all this, all that was inside my head was, well, yeah, but you can't even support yourself or your home. What kind of loser can't take care of basic things? And all the while, I'm preaching to others to love themselves like a beloved child, and I'm bad talking myself. So it's kind of like I'm all over the map. Obviously, I'm going after my dreams of being a successful creative person, but by the standards of society today, while operating from an impoverished mental state. How's that going to work? So, the health episodes began probably somewhere around 2 years ago. And it was both physical and mental. I was just exhausted, and I was wondering if my life is just here to struggle for the sake of art, and why. But being who I am, I have no choice but to be that, so I just push it aside and went looking for the next thing to create. So opportunities come and they go, and I'm doing all these things, but I'm locked inside my own head. And I know that. So I have this amazing opportunity, and I go to this place where I can work on my mind, body, and spirit for 2 weeks while eating an organic, raw, vegan diet. It's called the Optimum Health Institute, and they're not paying me anything to say that, but you should look them up. They're pretty amazing. There's a campus in San Diego, which is the one I went to, and there's one in Austin, Texas. I would love to go again. Anyhow, so I did that. I found a counselor that specialized in PTSD. I worked on that ancient trauma. I researched. I sought help through healers, doctors. I took tests, medical tests. They all came back negative, and all 3 healers told me that there was nothing wrong with my body, but they acknowledged the things my body was holding at a cellular level. At the same time, I felt like maybe I should start getting my affairs in order, because clearly I had some hard to diagnose rare affliction that just couldn't easily be identified, but it would be eventually, and probably after it was too late to do any damn thing about it. I looked better in the mirror because I'd been eating well and I'd been sleeping plenty of hours, believe me, and taking walks with my dog. And I knew I was doing the best I could for myself, but my symptoms, the negative symptoms, just kept increasing, and I never knew when the next one would hit. I felt like I was losing my mind, and nothing I did could solve the puzzle. The contrast of blessings, hardship, and my past created inner instability and chaos, and in desperation, I went back to some of the basic things that make me happy. And I began painting stones again and leaving them for others to find when taking a walk with my dog, Shanka. This small act helped me to think of other small acts that felt good. I began having a few hours that I didn't feel bad, and that was, wow, that was magic. And then I had a whole day, and I started having little snippets of dreams, and I didn't say this before, but I quit dreaming for a long time. I had not had a dream that I remembered in several years, so that felt pretty amazing. And then something really amazing happened. And that story is next on my ring finger segment of things that I love. So please stick with me. Thank you. On our ring finger section for today, which is things that we love, I'm going to tell a story. And man, it's a deep and complicated story, so I'm going to try very hard to condense it and not go off down rabbit holes in too many directions. And let's just see how I do, okay? So this story is about healing, and you've heard some of my other things in the previous part of this episode here, and so you have some understanding about what I've gone through and that journey. And this is about coming out of that darkness and a significant thing that happened. So my father died almost 2 years ago, and I really was left with very little. I wasn't given anything after he died to remember him by, and there's a lot of trauma around that, a lot of family history and things that we're not going into here. But I had an odd opportunity to get something, to have something given to me that had been my dad's and that I never thought I would see again. And it was given to me as a gift, and it just happened to be a gun. It was a pistol, for a 22 pistol. And I'm not into guns, and that's probably why I didn't receive this initially, but it came to me. And then I was offered an opportunity a few days after that to go target shooting with it, which I said yes. And something happened. I was out there, and memories started coming back, things of my dad taking me out target shooting when I was a teenager, and how these types of sports like bow hunting, not hunting, but target shooting with a bow and with a pistol, and games that require that type of focus, and it's almost meditative. And it's a competition against your own personal skills of honing in and being able to focus into a target. And all of this stuff just kind of came. It was so unexpected. So unexpected. And although it's a gun, I was shooting, and this peace came over me. And to know I was holding something that was special to him, and something that connected us in something we had done together and enjoyed when I was younger. And beyond that, I don't have words, but it shifted something in me. That was on September 25th, and it was a real shift. Almost like when you shoot the gun and you feel the click in the chamber to the next. It's unremarkable, and yet it's amazing at the same time. And that's what happened. I can't explain what's happening after that, but my life is changing in amazing ways. And I just want to say that if you're suffering from depression when you're in the middle of it, I know there are no words to make you feel better. Sometimes you think, oh yeah, it works for them, it's not going to work for me. And I'm not saying that anything in this podcast is going to work for you. But what I am saying here in this section about love is that when you're open to the possibilities, you just never know what may come your way. I love you here on Jackie's Hand of Horror, and stay tuned for my beautiful granddaughter Araydia's section coming up next. Welcome back to Jackie's Hand of Horror, and here we are with Araydia for our little Pinky section and Araydia's opinion. Araydia, today I want to ask you, this is about what makes you happy, what makes you sad. So when things aren't going well for you, what kind of things make you happy? What can you do to make yourself feel better?
Holding Kite, my baby sister Kyron, playing Minecraft, playing board games, playing with my cousin, playing outside, playing with my Pokemon, playing with my laptop, and lots more things.
Yeah.
Let's just say.
So it sounds like things that that you enjoy. They help make you stop thinking about the things that you're not having a good time with. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of things make you sad?
When Kyrie cries. Oh, yeah, last night, my brother decided to bring my bouncy ball inside the restaurant, and it fell into something.
Like a grate. You were telling me thing on the floor?
Yeah, a grape or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gone.
And they're only 25 cents at Old Navy.
Uh-huh. Yes, we talked about it, and it upset you. I totally get that. But then we talked about ways that you could get past it, and luckily it was something inexpensive, right? Thank goodness it wasn't like a family heirloom, some like your great-grandma's necklace or something.
Yeah. Oh, I actually do have a great-grandma's
Oh.
necklace.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I'm glad it wasn't that he lost, huh?
Never trust your little brothers out 4 or less with things.
Especially bouncy balls
Yes.
in public places.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to see you smiling again. I love having you here on this podcast. That makes me happy. And I have to agree with you that holding your little sister is
It's
a beautiful
awesome.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just a little girl. She's only like 4 months.
Yeah, she's pretty small and helpless.
But she's so cute.
Yeah, we'll have to share pictures of her.
She has dark brown eyes. She has little, little dark brown hair. Little chubby cheeks. She's so cute and kind of chubby.
Yeah, makes you smile just talking about her.
She's so cute.
Yeah, and you're a wonderful big sister. Well, I love you, honey, and thank you so much for being here on the podcast again.
I forgot my words.
Oh, well, yeah. I forgot your words too.
Me too.
You're having a great time here on
Jackie's Hand of Horror.
Woo! You even did jazz hands. Love it. All right, honey. We'll talk next time.
Bye.
Well, thank you for joining us once again on Jackie's Hand of Horror. We've had another great episode here with my team, with myself and our tech support, Quinn and Natalie, and the rest of the crew at the Revival League podcast.